Welcome into the Steelers Talk mailbag here for Week 15. It's my favorite segment of the week as I get to have that two-way conversation with you guys, the fans here of Steelers Talk, and get to answer your questions on the black and gold as the Steelers prepare to take on the Miami Dolphins here in Week 15 on Monday Night Football. Now, before we get into your questions today, make sure you click that subscribe button. If you want to get a question on a future edition of Steelers Talk, you guys can join us for our Thursday live shows that we do every single Thursday on this channel, and you guys can get your questions on the show for free, but you got to click that subscribe button to join our live community. Hundreds of people watch our live shows every single week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then hundreds of thousands of people watch our Steelers Talk watch parties on every single Steelers game day. So if you guys want to join the most interactive Steelers fan community anywhere here on YouTube, that's what we try to provide for you guys here on Steelers Talk. So greatly appreciate your guys' support. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's get into your questions here, starting with J5050 says, honestly, Jack, do you personally believe in Tomlin? His numbers speak for themselves. We need to rebuild. Also, Lemon and Maiava in the draft. I mean, that'd be an interesting combo there, getting Maiava, later, in the mid-rounds there, and then getting Lemon. But, Maiava is one of these guys that, coming in from a very, air raidy style of offense under Lincoln Riley. Now, Riley has a very good track record of his quarterbacks working out in the National Football League, so we'll see. But Maiava really doesn't bring, in my opinion, high-level arm talent, and he doesn't bring a high level of off-schedule playmaking ability. So maybe, especially because he has that connection with Lemon, and he'd be an awesome number 2 receiver here in Pittsburgh to pair with DK Metcalf. In terms of the Tomlin question there, I like Tomlin for certain things, and like most coaches, I think that he has this good and his bad. I mean, the people that just say he sucks or, he's a terrible head coach, I just don't think, really have a grasp of, how difficult it is to have as many non-losing seasons in a row that he's had. He can't be a bad head coach and do that for as long as he's done it. But also, I think that there's very valid criticisms of Mike Tomlin of exactly why this team has been living in mediocrity for many seasons on end. And Tomlin has a big say in personnel, and a lot of the players that he's brought in have been older and washed up. That's on him. He hasn't been able to get the right coordinators hired here in Pittsburgh since his first try. His first try was actually his best one, bringing in Bruce Arians as OC and then keeping Dick LeBeau at DC. That was his best round of hires at coordinators his entire career. He hasn't been able to replicate that. And, when you combine all these different things, it just limits your football team. And even though I think Tomlin is an excellent locker room leader, I mean, players don't talk about their head coach the way they talk about Mike Tomlin unless he's a phenomenal leader of men. But at the same time, you can also point to things that Tomlin has done that has held this team back. So I don't blame Steelers fans at all for being frustrated with Tomlin, wanting a new voice here to try and get this team to the next level. But, I personally consider Mike Tomlin a Steelers legend for life because he won a Super Bowl here. I will always consider him that. But if he decides to move on this offseason, I would be excited to see a new head coach here in Pittsburgh. Then we get to Eric Dexter. He says, hey, Jack, what's our chance to win a playoff game? I mean, first you got to get there, right? You got to take care of your business here in the regular season. And I do think the chances of making the playoffs are more than 50%. And then the chances of winning the playoff game at home, I would say, is about 50%. So you kind of combine those two numbers, I would say 30% chance around that, 30% chance, maybe 35, 40% chance. I don't think, the odds are necessarily in the Steelers' favor to win a playoff game this year, but I absolutely believe it's possible, especially because if they make the playoffs, they're going to be playing at home. And if you're playing like, say, Houston or, one of these teams that, LA, one of these teams that play in a dome or play in a warm environment, playing in Pittsburgh in January is going to be uncomfortable as hell for those teams, all right? So I think there's certainly a chance the Steelers could win a playoff game this year, Eric Dexter, but right now I would put a less than 50% chance of it happening this year. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Will the Steelers wrap up the AFC North by Week 18? So before we even play the Ravens again, will they wrap it up over the next 3 weeks? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. For today's pinned question, in just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Ethos. And while I tell you about Ethos today, simply give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. With that, let's have a word from our sponsor today. And guys, the summer before I started here at Chat Sports, my family unfortunately lost my late grandfather, who I was really close with. And as you tend to do when you lose a loved one, you begin to think about your own mortality and what would happen to the people dependent on you if something were to happen. With today's sponsor, Ethos, your family can be protected. If something were to happen to me, I want the last thing Cassie and the people that I love to worry about is being able to pay the bills. So I trust Ethos to keep them protected. As you probably already know, however, the process for obtaining life insurance can be super confusing or straight up annoying with how tedious the process can be. That's where our friends at Ethos come in. As of March of 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. Ethos is an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. There's no complicated process, and it's 100% online. There's no medical exam required, and you just answer a few health questions to get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos today. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily to get your free quote today. Application times may vary, rates may vary, and a big thank you to Ethos for sponsoring today's edition of Steelers Talk. All right, so we got DJ KJ here. Great profile picture there, my friend. Says, what's your and Ponzi's favorite player of all time? I'm guessing you're talking about Steelers player here. So for me personally, I got to go with Troy. All right, Troy Polamalu, with the hair. And, it was during my generation of the Steelers winning Super Bowls and all that different stuff. I love Big Ben as well. And I love James Harrison and all these guys that are, legends here in Pittsburgh. But I'm going to go with Troy Polamalu, the Head and Shoulders guy, commercials, legendary, all that great stuff. Ponzi, what was your favorite Steeler of all time? Debo, he says. James Harrison. All right. So, hopefully that does it for you there, DJ. $5 there for Sean. Darth Sean says, get well, TJ. You are demand. Let's go Steelers. This video and this mailbag is going to be coming out later in the week, probably on Sunday morning. So by this time, I'm guessing we get an update on TJ Watt, whether he's going to play, what the timetable is going to look like for him. We're filming this on Thursday when the news came out just hours ago, and we don't know much at this point. But we're certainly hoping TJ Watt can get back soon and he can make an impact for this team down the stretch. $2 from Bernard Nixon says, if A-Rod wants back, would you take him back? Bernard, it depends on how he plays the rest of the year. All right, I want to see him down the stretch prove that his body can hold up for, a 17-game schedule and the playoffs. And if he does that and he plays well, and he plays like he did against the Ravens last week for the rest of the way, I would absolutely bring him back. All right, but the chances of him retiring are still there. And if he doesn't play well down the stretch, I would not want to bring him back, and I'd want to bring somebody else in, especially if like a guy like Matthew Stafford is available, for example, if the Rams end up trading for Joe Burrow, which I think is more likely than people think at this point. I certainly think that that's a possibility that the Steelers could explore, but, I think that A-Rod, if he has a good, strong finish to his season here and the players want him back and all that stuff, I would absolutely be open to Aaron Rodgers coming back for another season here in Pittsburgh. Now, before we get into the rest of your questions here, guys, click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. If you are a real one, if you bleed black and gold, you love our channel, you want to help us out, help us get new subscribers to the channel and new eyes on our videos, the best way to do that is click that thumbs up icon, because the more people that like the video, the more YouTube is going to recommend our shows to Steelers fans across the globe, which means more people watch the show and get introduced to the channel, more people subscribe, and so on and so forth. So it's a cycle of life here on YouTube, and do your part right now by clicking that thumbs up icon and helping out our channel. All right, we got one from Matt who says, I think Drew Allar would do well in Smith's offense. He is a Big Ben type of quarterback. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the consistency that Big Ben had, obviously, and he's a big guy. He's got a strong arm. Elastic arm that can do a lot of different things. He's kind of like, we've talked about some of these quarterbacks that don't have consistency in college football, like Allar. Some of the best quarterbacks in the league were those types of guys in college. But I think with Allar, man, I think at this point, coming off the injury, with how inconsistent he's been and how inaccurate he was in college, he's going to be a day 3 guy. So listen, man, if the Steelers get him on day 3 with one of their many draft picks on day 3 coming up here in 2026, and they kind of make Drew Allar and Will Howard kind of duke it out for the future of the franchise, well, maybe they play behind Aaron Rodgers for a year, that's something I'd be open to. I really would be open to that, because obviously Allar has the arm talent to make it work here in the AFC North, all that stuff, but like people suggesting that the Steelers are going to take Allar in round 1 or round 2, I just don't see Allar being that hot of a commodity going into the NFL draft this year. But I guess you never know. JT Clover says, what do you think about Minkah and how the Finns use him? And do you think the Steelers made a mistake on trading him? So it's kind of weird, right? Because the Dolphins trade for a safety, Minka Fitzpatrick, and the Steelers trade for a slot corner, Jalen Ramsey, and now at this point in the season, they've switched, right? Ramsey's the safety, and Minka is the slot. So, it's kind of funny how things work out in the National Football League, but I think they're both playing really well in their respective roles. Minka's playing really well as their nickel in that kind of Kyle Hamilton role in that Mike McDonald-style defense that Anthony Weaver runs in Miami. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers have Jalen Ramsey playing safety. He's playing great. He's hitting people hard. He's playing with good instincts. He's a natural at safety, in my opinion. So I think it worked out for both teams, man. Honestly, the worst part about that trade is you got Jonnu Smith to take up as many snaps as he does in this offense. He's been a complete disaster. Obviously, just imagine if this team would have kept Minkah in that trade and not traded him away, but obviously Minkah was a very core piece of that trade for Miami, and it prevented you from giving up draft capital in the 2026 NFL draft. They were very protective of those picks, and Minkah was slowing down, guys. Minkah was not the same player at the end of his Steelers tenure, and I think, Jalen Ramsey fits perfectly with what we do here in Pittsburgh. So I think it worked out for everybody, and sometimes that's just the way it works in the National Football League. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. What is your concern level for TJ Watt's injury history right now? Obviously, TJ has 4 straight years with some sort of injury that is really detrimental to the team. The last 3 years, an injury has kind of been the reason why the Steelers collapsed in those respective seasons. Hopefully that's not what we're experiencing for a 4th straight year here in Pittsburgh, but put it on a scale of 1, meaning not worried at all, he'll be back, before you know it, we're going to be just fine, to 10, meaning 5-alarm fire, DEFCON 1, the Russians just launched the nukes, all right? Let me know what your scale is there, 1 to 10. Let me know what you guys think, and that'll be it for this week's mailbag. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show, getting your questions in, watching the live shows, all that great stuff. We're going to continue to get you guys A1 Steelers content here on the show every single day, all throughout the calendar year. So if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. Greatly appreciate your guys' support. Until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.